What's up, everyone? I just got done watching the PlayStation 5 reveal video up on YouTube, and I got a lot to say, all right? So I'm not going to go through everything that they went through. What I'm going to do is just go through the things that I myself was interested in. I'm going to tell you guys what I thought about the PS5 console reveal, the design of it, and yeah, needless to say, it was a pretty interesting showing. I was pretty excited about a lot of the stuff that they showed, and you know, some really good reveals as well for some brand new IPs and existing franchises. All right, so right off the bat, I'm going to start off with the games that they sort of announced, and then I'm going to go into my thoughts on the console and you know, some other things that I have in mind going into this new generation here. All right, so. Right off the bat, they showed us Spider-Man Miles Morales. This is a sort of a spin-off game, it looks like, starring Miles from the Marvel Spider-Man game that we got in 2018, I believe. An excellent game from Insomniac. Now, I'm not sure if this is sort of a full-fledged Spider-Man game, if this is Spider-Man 2 with like just a subtitle or something, or if this is just simply a spin-off game similar to sort of how like Infamous First Light, for example, compared to like Infamous Second Son. So I'm not sure if this is going to be sort of a similar type of style and in scope, what type of game this is going to be. But it's really cool. I really enjoyed the Spider-Man 2018 game. I thought it was fantastic, and the visuals in particular were just a beautiful showing. And it also reminds me as well is that when they were showing off the PlayStation 5 SSD, one of the things that they showed off to sort of show how fast it was and how it could bring in data and stream it as fast as as faster than anything we have in the market was the Spider-Man PS4 game. And so it's interesting that this was the first game they showed off for the PS5. Was this Spider-Man game. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be pretty cool. Right after that, we got Gran Turismo 7, which I'm personally really excited for. Now, I was a huge Gran Turismo fan kind of leading up to Gran Turismo 5. I really liked Gran Turismo 5 Prologue back on the PS3. But when Gran Turismo 5 came out, I was very disappointed. They strive for quantity over quality, and Gran Turismo 6 came out at like the tail end of the PS3, and like I'm surprised they never even ported that game over to PS4, to be honest with you. But when I played Gran Turismo Sport, which is sort of a online-only, smaller style of game, I was actually really impressed. Unfortunately, you know, it being an online-only game, it does have a short, limited lifespan, but the actual gameplay of the game, the driving mechanics, all the technology that they put into that was exceptional in terms of it being a full-fledged Gran Turismo game, at least for me. I really enjoyed that game, and despite it being always online. So I'm hoping that Gran Turismo 7 sort of, you know, gives us a lot of the cars. Don't do that shit with Gran Turismo 5 where 70% of the cars don't have cockpit views and you have like, you know, these PS2 level graphics on them. You know, I want like a full-fledged, you know, quality Gran Turismo title for PS5 with you know, all the cool features that they had in Gran Turismo Sport. I think that would be really freaking cool. So I really enjoyed seeing that trailer. I was looking around the environment. It seems that they kind of got rid of the 2D trees, which a lot of people like to make fun of, you know, for racing simulators. So that's really cool. Glad that they announced that, and I'm looking forward to playing that as well. The third thing, sorry, I want to talk about is Ratchet and Clank. We're getting a new game, which I'm pretty surprised about. You know, we had the Ratchet and Clank Reboot, which is the first Ratchet and Clank game I played in like years, and I really enjoyed it. I actually really enjoyed the Reboot. I thought it was a beautiful game, and the HDR in that in particular, I'm still coming from memory because I played it like 4 years ago. It was one of the best HDR experiences I've ever played with a video game. It dramatically changed up the environment. So this is a, I don't want to say it's really a direct sequel at all, because it's not. It's its own, you know, sort of individual game. At least that's what it seems like. But, you know, it's them going through a multiverse of different dimensions, which I think is going to be pretty cool to show off the graphical showcase. And I think it'll be a fun, you know, just sort of pick me up and play type of game. You know, something just not to take it too seriously, but to look at the graphics and all the particle effects. They're talking about how they're getting ray trace reflections on Clank's character, which I think will actually look really cool. Just in the trailers, we didn't really notice it at all. So we'll see. The second thing is Project Antifa, if I wrote that down correctly. This is from Square Enix. All right. So this is it looks like a third-person you know, kind of hack and slash. It's a bit weird. It's sort of like has the elements of Final Fantasy mixed in with like some Tomb Raider platforming, but you know, it's all fantasy based. It looks good. It looks gorgeous. That's the first thing that sort of drew my attention away from this reveal, was just the graphics. I mean, the actual environments themselves were absolutely beautiful, and I don't know if it's running on the Final Fantasy 15 engine, but it does look really, really good, and it looks really interesting. So I am actually kind of looking forward to it to see how it plays, and I think it'll be a good showcase for visuals as well. The second, I keep saying the second thing. The other things I want to talk about is Stray. Now this is a game that I've heard about for a very long time. It's actually about 3 years, I think, when I first heard about this game, but it didn't have a title back then. This is a platforming game taking place in a dystopian, futuristic environment where sort of robots have taken over. It doesn't look like there's any humans inhabiting the world anymore. It's all robots. And you play as a cat, and you're sort of platforming around the environment, trying to get to some location. I don't know what the goal of the game is, but I remember it was about 2 or 3 years ago when I saw an article, and I looked at the footage because they had about 15 to 20 seconds of actual, you know, footage, and it didn't have a title back then, right? But it was like the most gorgeous game I looked at the time. I was like, wow, this is why does this platforming game, when you play as a cat, have like the best graphics ever? That was my joke I made on Twitter back then. And we haven't heard anything about the game, so naturally I was like, okay, you know, what's going on with it? It's always been this sort of a thing that's been in the back of my mind, but you know, now that we've finally got a revival, really, or some type of information that yes, the game is still in development and it's actually coming out next year, I believe. It's called Stray. So I think this will be a really good game to show off, again, the visual horsepower of what the PS5 can do. Seeing ray traced reflections, especially with the type of environment it is, because everything they showed was in-engine footage, and it looked really, really good. I mean, the cat itself, the individual strands of fur were perfectly rendered, and you saw ray traced reflections in the environment, beautiful shadows and lighting and everything. I think it's going to be a very, 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 very interesting game. Okay. Moving on from that, we have this game called Returnal. This is, I think they said this was a PlayStation exclusive, although some of you guys may correct me on that. So Returnal is this third-person shooter, but it also looks like a first-person sort of stealth game almost too. It looks like it has both elements, because of the footage that they showed, you know, some third-person action shooting, and then they showed some first-person sort of exploration. It looks really cool. You know, this is a new IP, and from what I understand, when you die, you keep coming back, but the environment's completely different. It's completely changed, and the enemies have changed as well. So this could be a really interesting showcase for sort of what they can do with the SSD and the PS5 is what I'm thinking, as they're constantly changing up the environments, and you die, you come back to life, everything's completely changed. You know, I think this would be an actual really interesting style of game, and the combat itself looked really hard. It kind of looked challenging, sort of like Dark Souls-esque, where there's a lot of enemies coming at you and you have to dodge them and things like that. It looks really interesting, and I am definitely interested in trying it out. All right. The next thing is Kina, Bridge of Spirits. Now, I had no direct interest in this game when I first saw, you know, the first footage of it, because it was all animated and stuff like that. But when they showed the actual game, and the actual gameplay, this is sort of a hack and slash sort of action game, melee action game, it looks like. But you also have bow and arrow and things like that, where you know, you're sort of platforming through the environment, and there's a bunch of enemies that surround you, and it's very, the art direction is really interesting. They're going for really sort of realistic style environments, but the characters themselves are very animated, very cartoonish. And I think this will actually be a pretty game to look at, and hopefully it will be an interesting game to play. So I kept this one on the list because it is somewhat interesting to me. But it sort of has like an asterisk, so I'm gonna have to see more about the game to see if it's something I'm really going to enjoy and want to try out. But in terms of the art direction, I absolutely loved it. I mean, it looked stellar, it looked fantastic. I like the animated characters with the realistic environment. I think it blends together very, very well. Moving on from that is Oddworld, Soulstorm. Yes, Soulstorm. Let's look at my list here. So I never played the original Oddworld, and I know it's a beloved platformer. And when I saw the trailer for this new one, I was blown away by what they were doing with the environments and the particle effects and everything. And I think that's what Sony did very well in this conference. Speaking about this now, that Microsoft didn't, is Sony showed you basically gameplay footage or running in real time footage on the PS5, and the graphics were extremely impressive. You know, they all the games either had like enhanced visuals in some way. For example, like in Oddworld, you know, they're doing something with particle effects, and in Stray is like ray trace reflections and lighting and everything like that. And even something as simple as like Kina, Bridge of Spirits, it's like animated, but you have these super realistic environments. It looks great. So I think that's what Sony did very well with this showing. But going back to Oddworld here, this trailer did look interesting. It did look really fun and really cool to play. So it might be a game I do try out whenever the PS5 launches, okay? Ghostwire Tokyo. So this we got an announcement at last year at Bethesda's E3, I believe, and I remember that girl coming up on stage, that lady, and she was all energetic and excited. Well, she actually left the project, and I'm not sure why she left the project. You know, I think her excuse was that she just wanted to pursue other goals. I'm not sure what really happened sort of behind the scenes. I don't think anyone does. But the game looked interesting, you know, from the first trailer that we saw at E3. And it was this, you know, really hyper-realistic CGI type of trailer. And you know, it's a horror game, so you're sort of where you're going through the environments. Now, I was expecting this to sort of be a parkour stealth game. Think similar to Mirror's Edge, maybe third person though, but then you also have like combat where you're trying to stealth around the environment and not get detected to get somewhere. That's what I was expecting. What they showed was completely different. All right, it has an art direction to it with this one, so it looks like, again, they're going for a more animated type of look, but they have realistic effects going on. And it looked interesting, but it's a lot more combat heavy than I was anticipating it would be. I was, again, expecting this to sort of be a first-person parkour with stealth action elements. This seems very action-heavy, very much you going through the environment and you attacking them when they least expect it, and you doing all these crazy combos and conjuring magic and all this shit. So it does look interesting. But again, it wasn't what I was expecting, which isn't a bad thing, but you know, just something I wanted to mention there. But it is really cool to actually see the full game running, and I believe that's coming out next year, so it's going to be cool to have that as a launch year title for the PS5. All right, Jet: The Far Shore. This is a it looks sort of a similar type of style game to Journey or something like that, you know? Something where you're sort of running through the environments and you're exploring, but instead of you actually controlling a character, you're controlling this like spaceship or this ship or something like that that kind of flies through the environments. It looked pretty. It looked really gorgeous. I love the showcase of what they were you know, pulling off there, and the lighting and everything like that. But it's, again, something I'm going to have to wait and see if that's going to be something interesting to play. It might be a cool little small indie game that you would just, you know, sort of relax, sit down and play for a few hours and then complete it. So we're going to have to see about that. Godfall. Now, this we already knew was coming. This was announced at the Game Awards, I believe. But now we actually got official gameplay for it. To be honest, it looks like just a cooperative, you know, melee combat type of game. I said, you know, earlier when I found out that it was sort of a always online MMO type of squad-based multiplayer game, I was sort of disinterested, and it looks like that's exactly, you know, what it is. You know, they didn't really surprise me at all with the gameplay. I think if you're into games like Destiny, if you're into games you know, that have sort of a shared cooperative squad-based combat environment, then this is going to be something up your alley. But for me personally, I mean, it looks like the story, if there is one, is going to be taking a back seat to you just killing the same enemies and getting loot and all this shit. You know, I played these games a lot. I played Destiny. I played Destiny 2. I played Anthem. I played, you know, insert game here, you know, that are very similar in style. to that and are very much looter shooter heavy. And each time I play them, I walk away very disappointed. You know, it's these games, they're not made for me, and I try to sort of play them and bend them to what I want them to be, and that's not what they are. You know, and Destiny 2 gave us a campaign, but I felt like the story was really sort of just, you know, kind of a flash in the pan. It was interesting, it had some cool moments, but it wasn't memorable. You know, it wasn't anything like on the level of Halo that you know, we were used to from Bungie. So I don't know if this is going to be something that I'm going to be interested in playing. But as of right now, I don't really care for it. You know, but again, if you're into that type of style of game, it could be interesting. All right. Now, here's something I'm really excited about. I was a bit surprised because I didn't think that it was time. Right, I was sort of expecting that it would take longer for us to see this, but Hitman 3. So I absolutely love Hitman. It's one of my favorite franchises out there, and you know, I played the Reboot, which I was very impressed by. I thought the Reboot was excellent, and I played Hitman 2, which really took things a step further, and really loved it. So now we have Hitman 3. I cannot wait for this. This is going to be awesome. And they're showing off the different environments. They're saying that this is going to be the last game in the World of Assassination trilogy, they're calling it. So it's going to end this storyline that we've got with Hitman 1 and 2. Although Hitman 2 did a good job to sort of wrap up this story almost. But I think that it's sort of, if I can remember correctly, because I played it, 2 years ago, I think it wrapped up the bulk of what was happening, but it sort of hinted at a bigger issue. Just trying to remember. But anyway, the environments here, beautiful. We actually got to see a small hint of gameplay. It looks like they are changing it up. That was my main complaint with Hitman 2, is that it was basically Hitman 2016, but more options. You know, it was like the same game. Now, IO Interactive actually left Square Enix. They're not under Square Enix anymore, but IO Interactive they kept the rights for the Hitman IP, so they can do whatever they want with the series going forward, and hopefully, I think they're with Warner Brothers right now, so this will actually be a really cool game to hopefully show off what they can do without being under the umbrella of Square Enix. So hopefully they have a lot more creative freedom. I'm hoping the game is longer as well. And just we have like double the amount of maps. That'd be really cool. And I also don't know, because the whole point of the Hitman games right now is that the games keep expanding. It's like that's the whole point of the World of Assassination that they're hinting at, right? The world keeps expanding. So with Hitman 2, you also got remastered versions of all the Hitman 2016 maps and areas. Like, you basically had 2 games in one. So is Hitman 3 going to feature remastered areas for Hitman 2 and Hitman 2016? Or are we just going to get, you know, one big massive game? I'm not sure, but I absolutely love the trailer. I was a bit like, oh, really? I feel like we just had Hitman 2, you know, just a while ago, or just a little bit ago. Like, I didn't feel like it was time, right? But as soon as I saw the gameplay, I was like, okay, like, I'm excited now. I'm getting ready to get back into it. So, pretty cool. We have this game called Little Devil Inside. Now, this looks interesting. I'm sort of keeping it, and this is another one I have like an asterisk by, because I need to see more of it to really understand if this is going to be something I'm really interested in playing. It does look cool. It does look kind of tormented and, you know, very interesting and something like that, but I just need to see more of the game before this is something that I feel like I really want to play. But it did actually appear interesting to me, so that's why I wrote it down here on the list. And following that, we finally got confirmation that Bluepoint Games is working on a Demon's Souls remake. This is pretty exciting. Now, I have the original Demon's Souls in my collection for PS3. I haven't played it, though. And I always wanted to. I just had to find the time to, right? But now we have this remake coming out, and it's going to be interesting. I wonder if they're going to be changing up anything from the game, like the game's story, or maybe they're going to be adding more boss fights, or they're going to be changing up the environments. I'm not sure, but the graphics they showed was mind-blowing. I mean, this stuff looked... It looked filmic. It looked really good, and I cannot wait to actually see, you know, concrete gameplay of the game. You know, undoctored 5 minutes of just pure gameplay to see what they do. Because this could be something that I think is going to be a real big a draw in for people who are thinking about getting a PS5 or who aren't sold on it yet. The Souls series has become extremely popular in the last few years, especially with Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne and Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, which I know some people don't consider it so much of a Souls game. It's sort of its own individual thing, but those style of games that are about challenge have really become interesting to a lot of people, and I think a lot of people are more open to giving them a shot. I played Bloodborne, and Bloodborne was the first game of that style that I really gave a chance to, and I didn't know if I was going to like it, but I walked away loving it every single moment of it. And I really enjoyed Dark Souls 3, and I really, really enjoyed Sekiro. I think Sekiro is probably my favorite From Software game, to be completely honest with you, even over Bloodborne. I just love the combat and the environments of Sekiro, and Sekiro was a lot more story-driven than any of those games. But Demon Souls, I'm really interested to see. This is sort of the game that started it all, and this is going to be interesting to see what they can do with that, especially Blue Point Games. They did the Shadow of the Colossus remake, and we all know how that turned out. It was fantastic. So I'm really hoping that this really becomes a beautiful showcase, not just visually and stuff, but it's going to be again, a draw in for people who are still on the fence about getting a PS5. Deathloop is the game after it. Now, we knew about this game already from the Bethesda conference that it was revealed at. Now, this is made by Arcane Studios. I had expected that this was a multiplayer only shooter where you have one player has an objective to kill somebody, and then one player on the other side has an objective to kill the player, and you have to kill your target before you get killed. I thought that was the dynamic that the game was going for. And then every single time you die, it just kind of refreshes, and I think there's probably new environments and things like that. But the gameplay that they showed, it looked very similar to Dishonored, which is a good thing. I think Dishonored is a fantastic game. But it didn't appear like it was multiplayer. It appeared like it was single player. So I wonder if it's going to be something like AI driven, or if it's going to be sort of a what would you call that? Asynchronous type of style of multiplayer where it appears single player. You're kind of going through the game. But there are multiplayer elements as you sort of go through. A good example is like Death Stranding. I'm playing that right now, and in Death Stranding, when you build something, those structures actually get put in other people's games. So I'm thinking that it's sort of similar to that element. But I don't know if I don't know. I just have to find out some more information. It did look interesting. If it is single player driven, I will give it a shot. If it is multiplayer, I might give it a shot still. But I feel like this is going to really die. The formula is going to die off for me very quickly if it's multiplayer. So we're going to have to see. This is exciting. So I was watching this, and I was predicting that what we were seeing, it was actually this, and I was actually right. Resident Evil 8 Village. Now, this is pretty cool. We've got rumors about Resident Evil 8, coming out and what it was going to be. People are saying that it was fully first person, that they're going to keep with first person, and they are from the trailer that they showed. Wow, the environments themselves. If what they showed was actual in-game footage, this may be some of the best visuals I've ever seen in my entire life. Some of this stuff looked photorealistic. In fact, it looked CGI-like, like stuff that couldn't be rendered in real time. And it looks like they're sort of taking a sort of a piece from the style of Resident Evil 4 and putting it in this game. So everything's sort of more, there's a lot of castles, and it's sort of, interior environments with these marble columns and statues and all this stuff. It really looks good. And we're going to be continuing with our main character Ethan from Resident Evil 7, which I think is pretty cool. And this is going to be, I guess they said this was his last game, so this is going to be the end of the story. So it's going to be a sequel to what happened in Resident Evil 7, but with a whole new environment. Chris Redfield is going to be in the game, and it's going to be a lot more prominent in the game from what I understand. And I think it's going to be really cool. I'm hoping that this is going to be a really, 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 really long game as well. Maybe about double the length of Resident Evil 7. Resident Evil 7 was a good length. but it was very confined. You know, that's the thing about Resident Evil 7 is you went back to the same environment. It took place mostly in the house, and it was on this like one piece of property, and they did a fantastic job in that game of really giving you variety in the environments. But with this one, Resident Evil 8 Village, it looks like you're gonna have like this entire large area to explore. And if they can find a way where you aren't backtracking as much, or maybe just what you are backtracking to is different, maybe different routes to get back to where you were originally, I think this could be really, 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 really interesting. So I'm looking forward to this. Resident Evil 8, they did a fantastic job with Resident Evil 7, and we got the excellent 2 and 3 remakes, so this is going to be awesome. Horizon Forbidden West. This is the sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn, the excellent game from Guerrilla Games. I thought they did a great job with Horizon Zero Dawn, but I just wanted more variety. My main issue with Horizon Zero Dawn was just the combat itself. The bow and arrow felt tiresome because that was like your only means of actually attacking. You can get spears, you can get traps, you can do all this stuff, but all those felt like equipment rather than actual weapons at your disposal. So this is what I'm hoping that they do in Forbidden West, is they give you variety in weapons. I want to see some guns. I want to see, if not guns, some type of other style weapons that's going to expand Aloy's arsenal, that more so than what we saw in Horizon Zero Dawn. So in Forbidden West, they have this brand new environment. It looks a lot more tropical, but they also showed this great variety. You have these large sand dunes as well, and you have underwater sections, fully explorable underwater sections, and you're probably going to have underwater combat as well. This looks really good. Now, they didn't give a release date for this. I'm expecting 2022, to be honest with you, but what we saw here was fantastic. This is a gorgeous game. Guerrilla Games always does a great job, and for me, in terms of all the PlayStation studios, I always feel like they go above and beyond in terms of the visuals. Like Horizon Zero Dawn, even Killzone Shadowfall, which is a launch PS4 game, looks better than a big chunk of even the PS4 exclusives that are out. So it looks fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to what we see next with this story, because I really liked Horizon Zero Dawn. For what it did well. I thought the exploration, the environments were fantastic, but I just want more for the combat. I feel like they really need to focus on that element in order to make this game great. So it'll be pretty cool, right? So those were all the games that I wrote down that I was at least interested in. This is pretty cool. You know, we did get a little bit of a hint at the PlayStation 5 UI, but it was sort of a quick tease. They basically showed the starting screen when you're signing in, but it's, you know, that's we didn't get to see much after that. Basically, as soon as the person pressed the PlayStation button, a new trailer for a game played. So we got a little bit of a hint at the main menu. It looks very similar to how the PS4 starts up. But from what I understand, they're going to be, you know, because we saw some leaked dev kit footage and everything like that. I'm just going to have to see. You know, Sony typically does a decent job with software. Although the PlayStation 3 XMB was very slow, although I like the way it was organized. It was just, everything took forever to load on the PS3. But I think that they learned from their mistakes, and hopefully with the PS5, with the UI, it's going to be really cool and very fluid. And next thing I want to talk about is just the design. I mean, they revealed the design for the console. I love the design. This is a very avant-garde, angular, I don't want to say angular, it's very rounded actually. It's just very interesting design, and it doesn't look like anything you have right now, which is really cool. You know, with the Series X, you can say it looks like a little mini ITX computer tower. You know, it looks like a PC. With this console though, the PS5, you know, it's really hard to sort of explain what it looks like. I really like the odd style. I think it fits well with the controller as well. You know, that was the thing about I liked about the controller, is that it was very like you got the sense that this is a new generation, and Microsoft is really going for refinement, whereas Sony is trying to go for innovation here. And I really like this. Now they have 2 SKUs for the console out, all right? They have a digital version of the PS5, and then they have one with the disc drive. Now here's the thing, they didn't reveal any prices or anything like that. They didn't reveal a release date. Here's what I am predicting though. I am predicting that we are going to see a $499.99 price tag for the PlayStation 5 digital version. I think it's going to be $500 for the base. If you want a disc drive, you're going to have to cop up $600. I feel like they are going to do this. I don't think that the thing is, people might be saying, oh, 550, but like $50 increments don't make sense to me. That's not something that I know Nintendo does it with, they did it with the Wii. The Nintendo Wii was 250, but the Wii U, I think, and then the Switch were both 300. So $50 increments doesn't really make sense to me. I think that we're going to see a $600 price tag, honestly, for the PS5 standard version with the disc tray. I think if you don't want the disc tray, if you're fine with going digital, which I know a lot of people are, that's the thing. A big chunk, they said about 54% of all sales on PlayStation games are actually digital games. A lot of people are not buying discs anymore. I don't think discs are going to go away, but a big chunk of game sales are actually digital now. And it makes sense. A lot of people grow up today, and a lot of kids especially, they grow up in the digital age. They aren't used to sitting here having physical media. And even I'm guilty of this as well. Music for me is, I consume music entirely digitally. I don't ever buy a disc or anything like that for music. I just download an MP3 or go on Amazon Music and buy the track. I don't sit there and buy disc. With movies, I like my disc-based content, but let's face it, most people just stream movies digitally through Netflix or through whatever streaming device that they have. So going in here with the next generation, it's great that we have discs, but I feel like most of the sales for the PS5 are going to be for the digital version of the console. And it is, in all honesty, they took away the disc drive, so I think it's going to be a lot cheaper to manufacture. They actually made the console smaller as a result. So whereas the disc version sort of has like a hump on the very end of it to sort of make room for the disc tray, the standard console just kind of goes in like this. It's this weird design. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, the digital version looks better because it's symmetrical, right? But it still is a beautiful looking console either way, and I really like the unorthodox design. I think it's gonna be beautiful in your living room, and I like the white and black two-tone design. I think it's very clean and whatnot, and I just think it's a beautiful design. That's all. But I do expect that we're gonna be seeing a $600 price tag for that disc-based version. I think it's gonna be that expensive, which I know might steer away some people from getting that version of the console, and that's fine. The thing about enthusiasts, people who like physical media are going to cough up whatever money they have to in order to keep their physical media. That's just the reality of it. If you're on the fence about it, you're just going to get the digital version, and that's perfectly fine. You can get whatever you want. But for most people, I feel like the price is irrelevant. If you care about having a physical library, then you're going to spend the extra money no matter how much extra it costs. And I am expecting we're going to see a $600 price tag for that. So as far as we know from Microsoft, we only have one SKU of the Xbox Series X. They haven't released a Lockhart version, or that console called Lockhart. It was rumored to be canceled, actually. And that was supposed to be a digital version of the console. But for what it is now, we have a digital version of the PS5, and a physical media version as well. It's just one version of the Xbox Series X. So whatever the price is going to be, I'm going to get that version of the console, the physical media version, because I just like my discs. Of course, I like game collecting. It's a big thing for me. And you can also play your PS4 games. I assume if you have the disc for them, you can play your PS4 games, put them into the PS5, and they would play right off the bat. So we're going to have to see what that's like, all right? But that's it. I thought it was a great showing, honestly. It was, I think that if they didn't reveal the console, I think this would have made this whole showing even worse, to be completely honest. I think they had to reveal the console. And now that we know what the console looks like, I love the design. I think it looks very futuristic and unorthodox, and I think it's really, really cool. They're definitely going for something sort of far out and unusual, and that's a good thing in my opinion. You want something that you're going to look at, it's going to make you question what it is. You want something that's going to catch your eye. And I think that that's a good balance between something that's eye-catching, but also beautiful as well. But, everyone has their own opinions. So that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed my thoughts on the PS5 whole reveal conference and everything like that. I think that they did a good job showing it. I'm going to keep my eyes out for pre-ordering one, and when I do get one, along with the Series X as well, because I'm going to be getting both, I will be doing an unboxing for you guys. And of course, I'll do what I did at the beginning of this generation, and sort of tell you guys what I think after owning both of the consoles for a few months. I think it's going to be really cool. So thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate it, and have a good one.